talk about Giannis, man. Because Giannis had a nice New York Times article written about him and his brothers and his off-court endeavors and his journey as a whole. But he was asked about his future with the Bucks and potentially signing the 3-year extension that he's eligible for, worth $173 million. Now, he said here in the Times, he said, I would not be the best version of myself if I don't know that everybody's on the same page, everybody's going for a championship, everybody's going to sacrifice from their family like I do, and if I don't feel that, I'm not signing. He also goes on to say, you've got to see the dynamics, how the coach is going to be, how we're going together. At the end of the day, I like all my teammates. I feel like all my teammates know and the organization knows I want a championship. As long as we're on the same page with that, you show me and we go together, win a championship, I'm all for it. He says, the moment I feel like, we're trying to rebuild, and then he switches up his tune. He says, at the end of the day, I want to win, and I don't want to spend 20 years with the same team and don't win another chip. What do you think about those comments there by the Greek Freak?
Welcome to the NBA, Milwaukee. I mean, this is you got a star player. You have to keep convincing them that you are desperately trying to help them win another title. Doesn't matter how many they've won. Golden State, they had a number 2 overall pick. He wasn't panning out. They said, get him up out of here, man. Like, we're trying to win another one. It's like, well, yeah, but this guy in 7 years, they don't want to hear about 7 years. They want to hear about titles now, because this is what I said on the radio the other day. Brooke Lopez and Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton and all these guys and John Hamm, they can end their careers, and wherever they go, people are going to say, that dude won an NBA championship. That guy's a champ, and get respect and never have to buy a drink and all that stuff. If Giannis goes the rest of his career without winning one, all they're going to say is, you just won one?
Only one.
You just won one? That's it? Steph got 4. LeBron got, 4. Kobe had 5. Shaq had 4. Michael had 6. Magic had 5. You just had 1? Man, get your ass to the back of the greatness line. And so he's living under a pressure that nobody else, not even his brother, is going to feel. Nobody else feels that pressure. So the other thing that happens a lot in NBA teams, particularly when star players are demanding, is if the star guy is a quote unquote good guy and a good pro and all that, he's fine. He's just playing hardball. He's just frustrated a little bit, but when he calms down, he'll be fine. When we start playing, he'll be fine. They make these excuses because they think basically they can take advantage of your kindness. And so star players have to always remind them, don't take this for granted. He'll always be here. We can take our time figuring out this stuff. He'll be fine. He's a given. Just write him in stone. No. You don't write me in stone. You make sure that you understand that I'm in pencil and I got an eraser in hand. And I wonder if what Giannis is realizing is coming off of looking at Damian Lillard and everything he's done for that organization. Obviously, they haven't won a title, but he's done everything but. Same thing like Giannis, a pro's pro, a great leader, a great teammate, a great community guy, all these things. Given the best of years of his life to this team. They're not getting it done. They're clearly not getting it done on their end. He asks to get traded, he becomes a villain overnight. Yeah. And Giannis would say, wait a second. Hold on. What if they try to do that to me? So I think from a standpoint, he's just letting them know. Don't think this thing is sewn up. It's not, because they can offer him an extension in a little less than a month.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, he's letting them know, don't just think I'm just going to sign. From the one side of it of like, you guys have to prove to me that you're doing everything it takes for us to be competitive for a championship. From the other side of it is, economically, it really doesn't make that much sense. I think I did the math. I think the difference between how much the extension is worth versus if he waits and opts out and signs a 3-year deal with another team, not with the Bucks, think it comes down to about 12 or 13 million dollars
Mm.
total over the span of 3 years. So it's like Giannis has hit a point where he's made enough money where he can afford a $13 million total pay cut, which is about $4 million a year, to end up somewhere he feels more comfortable with what the program is about.
Yeah, I think he's in an interesting spot, man, because as you said, he's certainly right. I agree with him to send that message to management ownership. Don't rest on your laurels. We have to stay aggressive. We have to stay in attack mode. And they were to a certain extent. They pushed all their chips in the middle to bring in Drew Holiday, and it bore fruit. They got themselves a championship when they beat the Suns. But now the challenge becomes, how do you extend that window with your stars, with your primary investments, going in and giving Giannis a supermax? You know, the Lakers are looking at that now, right? They sold their soul to the devil to get AD. It got them that championship. Now they're trying to figure out how to maintain that window at Golden State. But, you know, with the Bucks, I have a hard time seeing how they're going to be able to do that once Holiday leaves. And Drew Holiday, is he going to retire? Is he going to extend with the Bucks? You have Holiday, Middleton, and Lopez over 30. I have a hard time seeing how they're really going to be able to keep that window open. It's good now for another 2 to 3 years, but they have no promising youngsters. The stars are over 30 except for Giannis. I don't see how they get there, man. It's going to be very tough as a small market team.
And you got to think that Middleton has been dealing with injuries recently. So how can you even be confident that he can stay healthy for a full season and give the same production that he gave a few years ago to win that championship? I mean, that's going to be the difficult part, because if you don't have the capital to go get a young guy and even find a replacement for Middleton, who would even be a good trade partner at this point with the extension that you gave him, saying, hey, we'll trade you Chris Middleton so that way we can upgrade on our end. Like, you have to go give up something in return. If you see Middleton on the downside, going on the downside, like, you got to give some draft capital maybe to get that upgrade. So I don't see how Milwaukee would be able to do that.
I think, and this is why this job isn't easy. And this is why, and, you know, you say, well, how's Milwaukee supposed to do that? It's like, if I'm honest, do I care? I care, either get it done or I'm leaving. That's all it comes down to. Is like, but we can't do anything because we gave up all those picks for this and they're all tied up. And like, that's not my problem, because the reality is this: the Milwaukee Bucks first year was like 68, 69. So they've been around 55 years, right? If this NBA thing keeps going, they're probably going to be around for another 55 years as well. Giannis' career is this. It's a moment in time. The Bucks can go 20, 30 years and then come back, and again, it becomes a great story, right? Like the Cavs winning the championship. They can mess up for decades, then have everything lined up and win that title, and everybody gets to pat themselves on the back. But this dude's career has a very definitive end maybe he feels like is in sight now as he embarks on his 10th season. So I don't have time to have this long view of the world like you do. My lifespan is this, in the same way that like an oak tree lives or a sea turtle or whatever lives for 150 years. So any given day of their life or month of their life is like, yeah, whatever. It's just a moment in time, a snapshot, versus a housefly that lives about 2 days. Yeah, every second matters to the housefly, because man, this is a big percentage of my life. Whereas for the sea turtle, a month doesn't even register on the radar. So if you're Giannis, however great you are, I don't get to say I'm gonna just wait. They'll figure it out in a couple of years. Otherwise, you end up like Dirk, right? Like Dirk playing 20 years, and that's cool, and it's sentimental and everything. But there were stretches of Dirk's career where Dallas just fucking up, trying to get shit right, and they couldn't get it right. And what does he have to show for? He's got one title, and so Dirk, great player, Hall of Famer, all good. Do we talk about Dirk the same way we talk about Larry Bird and Steph Curry and Magic Johnson? No. You over there you're in that group over there.
With the ones.
With the kitty table. With the ones. At the kitty table. At the kitty table. And Giannis is like, I don't want to be at the kitty table. I want to be with the big people. I want to be at the big table. So Yeah, man, he's got to do that regardless of whether they have the wherewithal to do it or not.
Now, I mean, you worked with the Suns, so how do you? And you mentioned earlier, like Brook can be happy because he's got one championship, right? Maybe even Drew Holiday got one championship. You talked about the organization; they can be, we can go 50 years and say, we can come back and revisit the whole championship thing later. But Giannis's window is short, right? Working in an NBA organization, how do you keep everyone on the same page after you just won one? Then to make sure everyone's still motivated because, as you already said, you don't want to lose that star. You have him for such a short window.
Well, I think it starts with having a star player who has that mentality, right? Steph Curry, Giannis. Again, and I'm naming names, not necessarily they've won multiples or not, but you could tell when the guys that are hungry that they're not satisfied with one. And it starts with that because that guy is going to be the leader in the locker room and is going to be the guy that when he shows up on day one of the next season, everyone's like, oh, we're not celebrating this anymore. One of the greatest speeches I ever heard, it was Magic Johnson talking about Larry Bird. He was talking about when we beat the Celtics in '85. He said, champagne and confetti, and we started celebrating everything. And he said, I turned and I looked out of the corner of my eye and I saw Larry Bird walking off the court. And I saw the look on his face. He said, I knew. He said, so we partied that night. We went to whatever. We partied for a couple of nights. I took a week off. And at the end of the week, I came back and I was in the gym working because I knew somewhere in the world, Larry Bird was out there shooting, trying to beat.
Yeah.
Like he gave himself a week to celebrate a title. I believe that was the first time the Lakers had ever beaten the Celtics in franchise history. Pretty historic, monumental. It was Magic's third title at that point. One could say, "Hey, man, you've done you've done it. You climbed that mountaintop. You got your revenge. You got more titles than him. You're clearly one of the best to ever have done it." Why did Magic come back a week later and start working like his life depended on it? It starts with that guy right there, right? Then obviously you hope your coach is like that. Most coaches are. They're just paranoid. They always think that they're about to get fired, so they're always working hard as a result. And then it starts to get like, right, the other people in the locker room, are they about that? And if they aren't, then it's on the front office to make those hard decisions of, all right, we need to get guys who are hungry. Sometimes it's just the addition of someone who hasn't won one. So Houston 95 is all about bringing in Clyde Drexler.
Yeah.
And Clyde being desperate kind of got everyone back on, oh, yeah, we got to do this because he wants one. He hasn't won one. But the more extreme part of that is sometimes some people got to go. Vernon Maxwell had to go. And he didn't have to go because he was complacent. Vernon Maxwell had to go from Houston because as Sam Cassell is rising, and obviously Kenny Smith is Kenny Smith, Vernon Maxwell becomes the odd man out. Otis Thorpe had to go because as Robert Horry is a much better fit next to Hakeem, Otis Thorpe becomes the odd man out. And guys, when they win the title, Pat Riley wrote about this. It's called The Disease of Me. How like everyone starts to kind of like, where's mine? All right. Everyone's down to sacrifice for 1 year. Sacrifice to win the title. Now sacrifice over. Where's my stuff? I want more shots. I did less because that's what y'all asked me to do, but now I want to do more. Where's my money? Where's my new contract? Where's disease? I mean, you look it up. It's a really interesting set of kind of principles that when you read it, you're like, oh yeah. And so when that starts to seep in, you have to make tough decisions of removing some of those elements sometimes. Sometimes it's just adding new people to kind of give that kick to everybody else. But if it exists in the front office, I don't know, man. I don't know. Now you're in trouble. And that's why you need a superstar who ain't afraid to shake the cage, so to speak. Because if he feels like the people upstairs are kind of chilling, now we're in real trouble because who's going to hold anyone accountable?
Yeah, it's very interesting, man, how they build this going forward, and what the thought process of the Bucks will be if they're not able to extend that window, because you go out, you give Giannis a supermax. Holiday, he goes down, right? He's coming off of his prime. Maybe he retires. Brook Lopez has a couple of years left. We'll see what Middleton does with his durability concerns. And then are you looking at a potential Dame situation where you have your superstar player, but now you're surrounding him with young players who are okay, you're trying to figure it out, but you no longer in your championship window. I wonder if the Bucks look at it as, hey, do we look to part with this guy sooner than later, get more assets, right? A lot of people say Portland, they waited 2 years too late to trade Dame. Mm-hmm. Do we do this now while he's still at the top of his game and just start over as a small market team?
I think if you're the Bucks, you can't do that right now because, again, this is a team that had the best record in the conference a year ago, or in the league, right? If you look over the last, since 2018, 2019, they've been the winningest team, I believe, in the NBA. They've had their fair share of ups and downs and stuff in the postseason, but they've been consistently excellent. Without an actual declaration of, I'm not coming back, I don't think you do that. This basically what I'm trying to say. It's not Portland. Portland wasn't winning 55 games a year, 60 games a year, and losing because someone got hurt.
Yeah.
Portland was a middling team, and I think we all recognize they didn't have talent outside of Dame, and the talent they did have was a duplication. Anthony Simons is talented. CJ McCollum is talented. Norm Powell is talented. None of these guys are like a compliment to what Dame does. So, like, Portland was poorly managed for years. I would say Milwaukee has been well managed. But, like Boyz II Men sing, there's the end of the road, man. Like, we come to the end of the road. Like, at some point, you got to realize it's only so many more shuffling of the deck chairs on the Titanic I can do. But you keep doing it until the player gives you the, hey, thanks for the memories. And in my mind, then you do it amicably. You're like, you know what? You want out, and thank you for the memories or whatever. You don't sit around and blow smoke up people's whats because you're trying to convince them that, oh, we can still do it. We can still do it. I think that's you just wasting that guy's time. And I don't think that's right, especially when like it's going to take a miracle given the assets or lack thereof that you have in order to turn this thing around.